All right, Mark comes bearing gifts. It's tape, and it's a fascinating team because this week, J-Mac and I, the one game that's confusing is Burrow and the Bengals at home against the Eagles. It's a huge game for Philadelphia. Yep. It is for Cincinnati, but I've been saying that for a month and a half. So let's talk. I've said all week is I like so much about Philadelphia. And the coach worries me. Regression from Hurts worries me. But owner, GM, roster, receiver, boy, A.J. Brown is something else.
He's unbelievable.
He's unbelievable. Very few teams feel like they're different with a receiver. Like, he leads the team. Yeah. All right, so let's start with the first tape on the Eagles.
Yeah, so I think a lot of this is footwork driven. I want you to understand that both of these plays that I'm going to show you are consecutive plays. One's a 3rd and 3, one's a 4th and 3 before they break this game open and beat the Giants. I think it's important for footwork, eyes, and timing. We talk about that a lot for quarterbacks. I think a lot of these things, when we used to get graded as players, you just get a plus, a 0, or a minus. A 0 is just you did your job. A plus is like, wow, you went above and beyond. And a minus is, hey, I said 3 steps on footwork and you went 5, or you hitched too many times, or whatever it is, right? And that would be for throw, like your actual accuracy of the throw, your footwork, and then your decision or your read, right? So you'd get 3 grades. What you'd prefer is all 3 zeros or 3 pluses, or a mix of zeros and pluses, if that makes sense. So if we roll this first clip, this is a classic man-to-man beater on 3rd and 3. It's called mesh. You hear everybody say it a lot, but you get receivers picking for receivers or rubbing for receivers. But you get in these condensed formations. You force teams to designate that they're in man-to-man across the board. And what kind of man-to-man you have to decide. Is it a 4-man pressure, or is it this? Man with a hole player or a plugger? We're going to call him a hole player. But I want you to focus on the footwork. What I prefer in mesh is a burn-em-up 5. Quickest 5 steps you got in your footwork. Grab bag of feet, right? That's what I want. Not bouncy, bouncy, bounce. I want a defined drop. And I want your eyes to go to the rail route. He's number 1, and he's your alert. Remember, he's the outside lane of the track. Okay. So the inside linebacker is going to cover that rail route. A.J. Brown's going to run the shallow and pick for Devontae Smith coming through. Yeah. So remember what I said about the outside lane and track. He looks like he's winning the race. But here comes McFadden, the linebacker, inside, and he's going to catch up ground quick. Then these two are going to pass like 2 ships in the night. That's the big deal right here on this play, and he's supposed to spring Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown is playing love of the game right now. This is like running the go route out the back of the end zone kind of thing. Like, you're helping your buddy spring him open. Jalen Hurts locks on to Gainwell on this rail route up the sidelines, and locks, and it never gets unlocked. This shallow route by Devontae Smith comes right into your vision. Gainwell's just a little extra sauce out there, and then he tries to throw to Devontae Smith late, and you're just, I'm scratching my head in the booth like, dang. 3rd and 3, man-to-man with the hole player, and they get that play called? Come on, baby, that's automatic. You know what I mean? Like, if you're seeing it right, if your footwork's right, if your eyes are right, that's a no-brainer, and Devontae Smith is out the back door. Okay, watch this next play. Just so you remember, right, those 2 shallows and that middle hook player, that middle hook route, that makes a triangle. So this time, 4th and 3, very next play. Look at the safety. After the motion, he's banging on his quads, on his thigh pads. That's telling the guy quadricep muscles. We're playing quarters. Now, what's quarters? They're going to divide the field into 4 pieces. It's one big pie. Everybody gets 25% of the pie. The reason we put those safeties in red is because they have help on run. They have to help in run support. And they also have to help on some of these middle sit routes like we're going to see from Calcaterra again. That's part of their job. So the corner is essentially going to be on an island like man-to-man, and now he's got the go ball and the post. That's what he's worried about. The last play, remember, Gainwell was up the sidelines. A.J. Brown had the shallow, right? He's going to run across the screen. This time, they just flipped their responsibilities. Now the back's on the other side. A.J. Brown's going to have the go route. The back's going to be part of this triangle again, coming out of the backfield. And then A.J. Brown's going to be sprinting up the sidelines. And you're going to go press him one-on-one? You're going to go press A.J. Brown like that? So there's your alert. Instead of the back coming out of the backfield, now this is your alert. Now watch these 3 guys make this triangle. Remember Phil Jackson and the triangle offense? Yeah. Same thing. Second level, oblique stretch, triangle read. There's the triangle. Isosceles, the equilateral. Take your pick. I don't care, right? Back to geometry. But 1, 2, 3. This ball's got to come out. and it comes out early, and he takes his alert on 4th and 3. Look at where this ball is. He's getting pressure in his face. Ball goes up the sideline about 40 yards down the field. And he converts a 4th and 3. When the play before, he had the shallow walking out the back door for an easy first down.
So what does it tell you?
So there's physical traits there that are elite. The deep ball throw is elite. Him and to A.J. Brown on deep balls is just unreal.
Yeah.
But it covers up some of the issues with reading a defense, with getting through your progression, with nailing down that footwork. Because if he starts to do that, once he does that, this dude immediately will jump to the top 10 in the league in quarterbacks. But until you're there, like, there's other guys I want that can process better at this point in his career. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is there a guy there that can help him get there and Kellen Moore? 100%. He helped Dak. He helped Justin Herbert. Like, this guy can get him there. But until I see those things, those easy reads start to happen, I'm going to run the ball 45 times.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And that's going to be their formula to win until that takes the next step. We talked about the maturation in the pocket. Yeah. We talked about Lamar Jackson, all that. It's that kind of incremental development and growth that you got to see from Jalen Hurts, because he has the physical tools. I mean, are you kidding me? He can run it.
Yeah.
He can throw the deep ball. He throws one of the best deep balls. That's why we compared him to Russell Wilson last year.
Right.
They're very similar players. So.
Okay. I love this clip. This is the first time I'm seeing it, but I heard, when I was watching the show earlier, I knew that, Colin pretty much teased that he was going to have Mark Sanchez break down the film. And I love Mark. Mark Sanchez is awesome. I know so many people love to make fun of Mark Sanchez, and it's just so dumb at this point. But he's awesome at breaking down the film, and I think he does it in a way that maybe non-football players could understand in a decent way. I think he's a good bridge for people who maybe haven't really played really at any level, I guess, which quite frankly is majority of football fans out there. So I think it's always important to be able to relay that to people, and I think he does a great job, because that's what he's training to do and learning to do and improving to do, because he does the he does the commentary for the NFL, right? During games, and they need to talk to people who have no idea what's going on, because the average person, like I said, has not played football, and the average person certainly hasn't played in college or the NFL. So I really encourage you guys a lot to definitely listen to what Mark Sanchez has to say. Again, I can see maybe for some of you actual football heads out there, it could be a little bit beneath you, so to speak, but I really am a major fan of what Mark Sanchez has to say. And with all that said, I really agree with everything that he's saying, quite frankly. The talent is there for Jalen Hurts, right? And he has that elite long ball, and he's got the elite physicality, right? Like, it's all there, which is what we saw with Shane Steichen, right? We saw that match made in heaven, and that was a one-way ticket to the Super Bowl, and he balled out in the Super Bowl. That can't go understated. Now, at the same time, you don't want to be frozen in time. You don't want to just hold on to that year of 22. But the truth is that when you see what he did, it wasn't a fluke. I talk about this all the time. How sometimes we see quarterbacks have one or two great years and then never again, right? The NFL is littered with those stories. But the reality is that you can, if you really look and see how it was done, you can see that they had a great team and they were playing a lot of bad teams. They were showing, they had a ton of, a monster run game, a monster offensive line, right? Like you can point to so many different ways of how that quarterback got there and why he then fell off. And then also on the other side, some of these quarterbacks have a great year or two, and it is because of the coach or coordinator, and then that coach or coordinator leaves, most likely a coordinator. And then it just kind of comes out that, you know what? Maybe that quarterback is unfortunately more reliant on a coordinator than another quarterback, but that doesn't automatically mean that you just throw him out, right? Again, look at what Sam Darnold's doing with Kevin O'Connell. He's playing like a top quarterback in the NFL. It's night and day, right? And so we see that. It fundamentally matters. Some quarterbacks are going to be more reliant on their coordinators, and that's okay. It doesn't mean they're trash. Look what Jared Goff is doing with Ben Johnson versus what he did with Sean McVay. And Sean McVay is great. He works with Ben Johnson. He works with that team. He's continued to get better year after year after year. And I imagine if Ben Johnson leaves, Jared Goff will probably take a step back. It's not the worst thing. I talk about this all the time. Brock Purdy would not be as good of a quarterback if he was drafted by the Carolina Panthers. He just wouldn't. Look what Joe Flacco has been able to do. Joe Flacco has been able to have great success late in his career, coming up off the bench or couch, because he's going to teams that have a great offensive coach, Shane Steichen and Stefanski. And so throughout his entire career, he hasn't had that. He's had defensive coaches or just bad coaches. And this was during the era when it wasn't so offensively driven for Joe Flacco. Obviously, he's significantly older. So coaching matters so much. So much. So these are some of the little things that Jalen Hurts could really clean up. And I think Kellen Moore is a really good coordinator. How great, how elite, I honestly have no idea. I really don't. This team was hard to understand because of the injuries. But as Mark Sanchez has pointed out, Dan Orlovsky has pointed out, some of the issues with how this team is prepared and the coaching. So even if Kellen Moore is a great coach, a great coordinator, it makes you wonder, how are these practices being run? Right? How are these practices being executed? What are they drilling? Because Kellen Moore doesn't necessarily have that free range. That is going to be more Nick Sirianni at that point. So that's always been the difficult balance. Whereas Kellen Moore can be telling him all the things that Hurts needs, but in terms of how these practices are structured and how they're being unfolded, he might not be able to actually put it into execution. That continues to kind of be a problem. So that is also why I kind of talk about the importance of coaching and why it's probably best to move on from Sirianni. And maybe it's not. Maybe it has nothing to do with that, and Jalen Hurts just doesn't get it or is not listening, right? Maybe those are technically possibilities. I find that hard to believe, because that was one of the things that Jalen Hurts was really frustrated about last year, is that he wasn't getting the answers from the coaching staff. That was part of his riff with Nick Sirianni, apparently, is that he didn't feel like he was getting the support. He was being left on an island. And we know that because those same people that have called out, who I shouldn't say called out, but who have raised concerns about some of the things that Jalen Hurts has done, have those same guys, like their Dan Orlovsky, have defended him and said, hey, he wasn't good against the blitz last year, but that's not his fault. That's a coordinating issue. There was nowhere for him to go to the ball. He was left alone on an island. What do you want him to do? Kellen Moore has instantly improved that, instantly helped him out. So it's just interesting because he's seeing those things. If Mark Sanchez is pointing them out, unless Kellen Moore is an awful coordinator, which I don't think, and Nick Sirianni just knows nothing about football, they're going to point this out to Jalen Hurts. But again, it has to be practice. It has to be worked on. It has to be executed in preparation. So it's a fascinating puzzle that needs to be solved sooner than later. My gut tells me this, is that Jalen Hurts can absolutely be a top quarterback in the NFL, but he really is, because of just he is a little bit smaller, somewhat, that he needs a great coordinator. And again, that's not a bad thing. That is not a slight on Jalen Hurts, right? He has gotten far on his pure, raw talent, not his deep understanding of the game. Tom Brady became the GOAT because of his deep understanding of the game, not because of his raw talent, athleticism. That's why he was drafted so low. That's how Brock Purdy has gotten away for so long, quite frankly. It's because of his deep understanding of the game. We have plenty of quarterbacks that are able to do that. Josh Allen slightly lacks this deep understanding of the game. I blame coaching as well. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. And again, you guys know I've been praising those quarterbacks. That's why why someone like a Josh Allen would be significantly better with a better coach. It's why these quarterbacks, when they get a McVay, when they get a LaFleur, when they get a Reed, a Shanahan, they get elevated. Like Greg Cosell talked about, a coordinator's job, no matter who the quarterback is, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, doesn't matter. The job of the coordinator is to make the game easy for their quarterback, is to clearly define the reads as easily as possible for them. So that's what Jalen Hurts needs, just like a lot of these quarterbacks. I think Jared Goff right now, statistically, is like top 3 quarterback. Do you think he would have those numbers if he was the quarterback for the New York Giants right now? Daboll's pretty good, so maybe not the Giants. Again, I always just use the Panthers, and I feel bad. I'm just constantly going to the Panthers. The Jaguars. You know, there's a growing list of teams like that. But you see it. So, Jalen Hurts, I'm really curious to see how this season continues. You do want to see him grow. You do want to see him evolve. It is absolutely still there for him to be able to do. I've said this about Jalen Hurts, that he's on this 2-year plan right now, this year and next, for him to continue to evolve and continue to become better. Because I still think some of the issues can still be blamed on Nick Sirianni. And if this team does underperform this season, they will most definitely move on from Nick Sirianni. And they would be smart to get a bona fide offensive head coach. Who that may be, don't 100% know. Maybe Ben Johnson, maybe someone else that, I'm not thinking about. You see what Jalen Hurts does then. If he continues to grow and get better, boom, home run. You got yourself your quarterback. Let's go. If not, then I would be confident that the Eagles would start to figure out, okay, maybe we're not going to draft a quarterback first round, but we'll be looking in the second or third round. We'll be looking around. We'll be sniffing. We'll take a look. I don't know. Is Josh Allen angry with the Bills? Is he done? Is he just, over it? Right? Like, I mean, again, I'm making stuff up here, but it's just like I don't think that they would be set when you're seeing other quarterbacks around the league have high levels of success. Again, I'm not saying that the Philadelphia Eagles are moving on from Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying that, but you could hear what Mark Sanchez is saying. Some of these things that Jalen needs to get right. Until he gets right, we got to run the ball 40 sometimes or whatever. So it's just some of these little things that you do want to see Jalen Hurts get better at. But at this point right now, I'm lean more towards coaching. 60-40. 70-30, right? Whatever the number is. And as this season progresses and into the next season, we'll see if it continues that, that trajectory. Because it could just be a Jalen Hurts problem, right? It could just be a processing problem. As I lose my camera. Don't know what happened. But those are just my thoughts. And we're back. But those are just my thoughts. And we lost it again. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.